I did bring these boxes up. I have not had the time to go through everything in there. As you can see, it's a lot. That's putting it minimal. A lot. So I have not had the time to go through everything that's in there. I'm winging it, Your Honor.
Darrell Brooks admits he's winging it, defending himself against more than 70 counts, including homicide charges, in the Waukesha parade tragedy that killed 6 people and injured 62 others. We have the week's top moments in the trial. I'm Angenette Levy, and welcome to Law&Crime's Sidebar podcast. Well, Darrell Brooks is the Wisconsin man who has declared that he is a sovereign citizen and is representing himself in his trial. And you know what they say? If you represent yourself, you have a fool for a client. Well, Darrell Brooks has decided to represent himself. And things got off to a pretty rocky start during the first week of the trial. Opening statements began on Thursday, and Brooks had objected to wearing a suit when Judge Jennifer Doro told him he should do so.
All right, we are back on the record. Appearances are as they were before. I need to make a record that at 8:42 a.m. this court ordered Mr. Brooks be removed from the courtroom due to repeated interruptions and disruption with the court. This, of course, comes on the recent history with Mr. Brooks. On every day that we have been in court since Monday, he has shown a complete and utter disrespect for the simple rules of civility. He has been removed from the courtroom multiple times. This morning alone, he started interrupting this court within a minute of the court calling the case. I should also make a record at the moment he is muted because of the way that he was removed from the courtroom and his conduct since. I have been given just a bit of information about it. I will advise everyone that I have required that the Sheriff's Department file a written report with the court regarding Mr. Brooks's conduct. I'm told that he would not sit down while in this courtroom in order to have the shackles removed so that he could be taken to the other courtroom, that he was resisting, that at one point he took off a shoe, and it appeared to the deputies that he was going to throw the shoe.
Now, eventually, of course, the trial proceeded, and Brooks was allowed to come back into the courtroom. It was pretty wild, though. It was pretty crazy. Sergeant Dave Warner of the Waukesha Police Department was the state's first witness. He was asked to describe what he saw during the parade. He was on duty, and he was right there, providing security that day. Brooks repeatedly objected during Warner's testimony.
Did the car continue in your direction, or the SUV?
Yes, it did.
What did you observe the path of travel for the SUV to be?
Objection, that's hearsay.
Mr. Brooks, it's not hearsay. Your objection is overruled. You may answer.
Could you state the question one more time?
Sure. Where did you see the SUV go? Better question.
Objection, irrelevant.
Overruled.
The SUV entered the parade route.
I want you to describe what you remember seeing as it passed your location, please.
As I was waving my hands overhead, I was approximately 6 feet from where the SUV was driving. As the driver passed essentially in front of me by about 6 feet, I could see the operator of the vehicle and just a dazed, straight, focused look straight ahead, not looking at anyone.
Did the driver appear to respond to your efforts to stop the vehicle?
There was absolutely no response.
Then it came time for Brooks, of course, to cross-examine Officer Warner.
Your question, sir.
In that clip, is it fair to say that you can see that there are people walking in the street and on the sidewalk? Would that be fair to say?
Yes, I could see that in the video clip.
Do you see anybody being targeted or being in a panic to get away from the vehicle?
No.
do you see the said driver of that vehicle intentionally trying to hit anyone in that video?
No.
So again, I would ask, were you brought here today to testify on behalf of the plaintiff?
Objection, asked and answered.
Sustained. He already answered that he was why he's here.
Again, I would ask just one more time for the record. Do you see the plaintiff in court today?
Objection.
Sustained. Do you have any other questions, Mr. Brooks?
Do you know of the plaintiff at all whatsoever?
Objection.
Sustained.
No further questions.
A friend of Darrell Brooks's ex-girlfriend, Erica Patterson, also took the stand on Thursday. His name is Corey Runkle, and he described his interaction with Patterson in November 2021 on the day of the parade.
What were you doing with Erica in the park?
Hanging out.
Okay. Was anybody with you?
Yeah. Kyle.
Okay. And you mentioned that you split up with Erica at some point. Is that right?
Yeah.
Do you remember why?
To go hang out with Nick.
Do you know Nick's last name?
Kirby?
Okay. And Erica didn't go with you?
No.
Okay. So what happened after you split up with Erica?
She met up with Darrell.
How do you know that?
Because she was on the phone with him and they said that they were going to meet up.
Now, before that day, November 21st, had you ever met Darrell Brooks?
No.
You'd only heard his name from Erica?
Yeah.
Okay. After you split up with Erica and she went to hang out with Darrell, did Erica ever contact you or Nick after that point?
Yeah.
How did that contact take place? Did she see you or did she call you? How
No,
did that
she
happen?
called me on my cell phone.
Okay. And what was the nature of that conversation?
That he was beating her up and he was following her.
And then Erica Patterson took the stand and testified about what happened on the morning of the day of the parade.
I want to direct your attention to the date of November 21st, 2021.
Yes.
Did you know anything about a parade happening in Waukesha that day when you woke up that morning?
I didn't know about the parade.
Okay, what about that afternoon? Did it become apparent to you that something
Yes.
was going on?
Yes.
Did you come into contact with Darrell Brooks on the afternoon of November 21st, 2021?
Yes.
Where did you first come into contact with Mr. Brooks?
At Frame Park.
And how did that come about? What were you doing and why did he get there?
We were messaging and calling each other all day. We were arguing back and forth. He came out there. Well, I told him I was with Miss Corey, and he came out there. I told him where I was. Got in his car. We drove around. And then I forgot the street. We went up that street. It's a hill. It's kind of by the Walgreens. We went up that hill. We drove around. Me and him got into an altercation. He hit me in my eye. I jumped out of the car, walked and found my way back by Frame Park. And then he followed me there. And then I went back in his car. I got out and I had called Corey. Well, I called Corey before that. And she came to meet me. I told her that me and him got into an altercation. So she met up with me, and by the time she got there, she pulled me out the way because his car turned around. He swerved. She pulled me out the way. He got up his car, and they got into an altercation. He pushed her in her face, and I don't remember if she hit him back or anything. That we walked away and walked back to the women's shelter.
Now, despite everything that happened on Thursday with the judge and Brooks going back and forth, Brooks interrupting Judge Doro, it was a mess. It was nothing. It's like nothing you've ever seen. It's literally like watching a train wreck. The day went pretty long. At the end of the day, Judge Doro actually took some time to compliment Darrell Brooks. There was this moment of sorts between them, and they're going to be doing this trial for quite some time together. So take a look at this interaction late in the day on Thursday between Darrell Brooks and Judge Doro.
Mr. Brooks, I want to commend you for a couple of things. Number one, asking him to come back into the courtroom I really appreciate that. I appreciate you being here. I think it runs much smoother when you are here, assuming you follow all the rules, which you have done a very good job at this afternoon. I also want to commend you on cooperating with the process even before you were brought over here. You were respectful, but you also made appropriate objections. You asked questions on cross-examination. Despite not wanting to unmask at first, you did do that, and I appreciate that. You asked some cogent, relevant questions, some of which went directly to the credibility of the witness. I would add, you might not always artfully ask the questions, but I think you're making some solid points. I would encourage you to keep prepping, to have questions written out based on the materials that you have. I really appreciate that you came back over and that you've been following the rules. I also want to encourage you, sir, to, if you choose, to wear your suit or other street clothes. It is your choice. I will let you make that choice. But I encourage you to consider that. I don't think there's anything we need to address other than perhaps timing. We went a little bit late here tonight, so I think I'm going to have the jurors report. I tell them we're going to bring them into the courtroom at 9. That usually means a little bit earlier with their protocol. We'll still start at 8:30 to address any housekeeping items at that point in time. Is there anything the state wants to address right now, or any record you want to make?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Mr. Brooks, anything you want to address right now, or any record you want to make?
No, just thank you for giving me a chance to come back in, and I appreciate what you said.
And those were just some of the top moments from the first week of the trial of Darrell Brooks in Waukesha County, Wisconsin. This is an absolute tragedy. 6 people were killed, more than 60 others were injured in an incident that just didn't have to happen. The Waukesha Parade, the Christmas Parade, is an event that people in the community love. They attend it every year. And this just didn't have to happen. So we will be covering this trial moving forward. I will be there next week covering it for you for a couple of days. So we'll see what else happens. And that's it for this edition of Law and Crime Sidebar Podcast. It is produced by Sam Goldberg, Michael Deininger, and Logan Harris. Bobby Szoke is our YouTube manager. Alyssa Fisher handles our bookings. And Kiera Bronson does our social media. You can listen to and download Sidebar on Apple, Spotify, Google, and wherever else you get your podcasts. And of course, as always, you can watch it on Law and Crime's YouTube channel. I'm Angenette Levy, and we will see you next time.